to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, your source for inspiring stories and insights from the world of small businesses. I'm your host, Maheen. Small businesses play a vital role in our communities. From creating local jobs to nurturing innovation, these enterprises are more than just economic engines. They're the embodiment of passion and perseverance. In every local purchase, there's a story, a family, a dream that's being supported. And as we advocate for these entrepreneurial spirits, we will delve into the symbiotic relationship between sustainable practices and business success. And who better to guide us through the dialogue than our esteemed guest today? We are joined by Jennifer Taves, the Senior Manager of Sustainable Communities at the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. Jennifer has dedicated over 15 years to fostering collaboration between businesses, non-for-profits, and public sector to progress environmental initiatives and foster economic growth. Under her leadership, programs are enacted that not only drive sustainable urban renewal, but also establish vital public-private partnerships and enhance corporate sustainability. Her strategic approach has brought together a wide area of stakeholders to champion sustainability not only within organizations, but throughout neighborhoods and the region at large. Her work with the TRCA is a prime example of how environmental stewardship and economic vitality can be harmoniously aligned. Hi, Jennifer. On behalf of Canadian SME, I'd like to welcome you to our Small Business Podcast. How are you today?
Oh, I'm wonderful. And thank you so much for having me. This is such an important conversation, and I'm glad to be here with you.
It is very important to us as well, and we're very pleased to have you with us this afternoon. Now, Jennifer, your work often intersects with small businesses aiming to become more sustainable. And could you just, give our audience or share with our audience some of the initial steps that small enterprises can take to incorporate sustainability into their core operations?
Certainly. I would say first, for any organization of any size, especially a small organization, you need to really take stock of where you are currently. So doing a sustainability assessment of sorts. So you might want to ask yourself questions like, do I own my building? Do I have a landlord I need to work with to get projects done? Where am I using my energy or water? What kind of waste streams do I have? And what happens to those waste streams when we're done with that product? What exactly is my business? What is my service or product having a positive impact on the world? What can that look like? So once you really get these ideas in place, you can start to see where you might want to go individually. And if you do have the resources, it's great to see if you can get an environmental consultant in to help you with that, but that's certainly not necessary. Small enterprises can do this work on their own. For example, Partners in Project Green has wonderful resources that are freely accessible. You just go to the website, partnersinprojectgreen.com, and you can go to our Green Resource Hub and find out how to do energy audits, how to look for water assessments, all of those wonderful things right there, so you can do it yourself.
Right.
Also, if you're in the city of Mississauga or Caledon, right now we have the Mississauga Climate Leaders Program and the Caledon Green Biz Climate Partnership. Well, we'll come to you and do a walkthrough assessment of your organization for free to start to identify some of those opportunities for you. So you can really tap into a lot of different resources to start to do the sustainability mapping, but that really is the first step. And then from there, you can start to set goals that make sense to your business and to your values. And I would always say, start with the low-hanging fruit. You want to start easy, get those quick wins in so that you can, start to see the benefits, but then also use those successes to bring in your employees and staff, bring in your customers, bring in your other stakeholders so that they can come along with you on the journey towards sustainability. So those are some of the first key steps. And then it would just be kind of iterative processes, try to get those low-hanging fruit in, then move on to the next project and the next project. Yeah, I would say that's a great place to start.
It is. And now, Jennifer, the GTA is a hub for very diverse businesses, right? In your experience, what are some innovative ways that you've seen small businesses contribute to corporate sustainability and create positive environmental change in the region?
There are many. And like you say, there are so many diverse ranges of sectors and industries here, and lots of powerhouses of small organizations really taking things on. One of my favorite stories from Partners in Project Green is Lang Transportation. It's a small logistics firm in Mississauga. And back in the early 2000s, they took over a building that was a huge natural gas hog, and they decided to go completely off natural gas with a geothermal exchange system. So that's a really innovative project for the time. And even really still today, it's pretty innovative. But the most innovative thing that I think came out of that was once they did the project, they shared it with the Partners in Project Green Network. And then large organizations took notice and they saw that a small business did this. So they saw the benefits, they learned from what Lang did, and then they went and implemented it themselves. Right. So, we see small businesses being leaders and innovators in this space. More currently, we have a small bakery named Handy Foods. They've done a wonderful corporate program all around reducing their carbon emissions and getting to net zero and looking at innovative technologies like net zero ovens for their bakeries. Now, they might not go install that oven right away because, that's an expensive technology. But because they know where they're trying to lead and trying to go, they can do those incremental steps in order to get there.
Right.
I'd also like to call attention to some of the work that our small manufacturers are doing in this space. So people like Nahani Steel and others have really looked at strategic energy management and put in energy monitoring equipment. Now, that might not sound as super exciting. It's just, seeing where the energy goes. But it's really surprising how often an organization has no idea. They look at their utility bill, but that only tells you how much energy you're using. It doesn't tell you where. So when you can do these unique tools and pathways of where your energy is actually being used, you can find places that you never saw were losing energy and save money that way. But the co-benefits that come from that, it's not just saving the energy. There's other benefits that these organizations are seeing. They're finding improved worker comfort because the climate is better controlled in the plant. They're finding business opportunities to shift when they are doing production and things like that because they're seeing how their energy is being mapped out. So really, these very simple things can end up with huge innovations. But what I really love about small businesses is when they share their stories and we hear what they're doing in sustainability, because there are a lot of really innovator companies out there. And then when we can get that knowledge out, more and more and more companies do this work. So that to me is the real innovation, that inspiration.
It is, because the stories you've shared, it tells a lot, but usually, urban renewal is often seen as through the lens of a large-scale development, right? Jennifer, how can small businesses play a role in this movement, and what benefits can they expect by participating in sustainable urban development?
Sure. Well, urban development is core to small enterprise. They often are the lifeblood of a community, right? They hold the diversity, the uniqueness of a neighborhood. So when they're involved in urban redevelopment, they're kind of keeping that lifeblood alive. So that's a very important part of making sure that we protect and enhance our small businesses when we're doing urban development projects. They're also economic powerhouses in our small, that's really what they are. So the more that you involve them in projects like this, you'll see investment in the local community, you'll see employment, you'll see entrepreneurship, and all that really gets reinvested in the community. So it's such an important and integral part. And really coming back to the sustainability aspect of it, small organizations, they all have a role to play. So if all of the organizations in an area are, procuring their supplies responsibly, are considering environmental and energy management and water management and stormwater management and all of those things, then the area as a whole becomes more sustainable. So it really weaves in the fabric of sustainable urban development when small enterprise is involved.
Now, Jennifer, but with most businesses, it is the case that implementing green initiatives can be a bit challenging, especially for small businesses, right? What common challenges do small businesses really face when trying to be more sustainable, and how can they overcome these challenges?
Yes, there certainly are quite a few challenges, especially for small businesses, but there are also tons of solutions. I'm just going to talk about maybe the top two challenges that we see, because otherwise we'd be here for a very long time. But I think the biggest one, of course, is financial constraints. Small organizations tend to have tighter budgets, and they need to be very smart with how they use those budgets. And sometimes investing in green technologies or products or processes doesn't feel like it makes the most business sense. So in that case, I would say look at those opportunities that that drive costs down first. So energy is a big one. You can often find a lot of cost recovery through energy management projects. Also, water management projects can be, depending on your organization, a place to recoup some of those funds. But there's also a lot of incentives that are available to companies. So you can work with your local utility partner or your local municipal partner to find out what those incentives are, or come to Partners in Project Green. We're certainly happy to help businesses find and access those incentives to get going. There's also a lot of no-cost opportunities, sometimes just instituting a recycling program or doing a 20-minute cleanup with your staff just to get that engagement with very low cost can start to roll that ball down the hill. And I would like to say too, sustainability is often seen as a kind of a side of the desk thing. This is our business, and then we'll do sustainability when we have time for it. But if you're doing sustainability right, it should be helping you achieve your business goals.
Absolutely.
So one of the side benefits of sustainability is employee attraction and retention, something that we're all faced with these days. It's a challenge in a lot of companies to find good staff and retain them. But we know that employees want to work for organizations that are doing good in their communities. So there can be places that you see additional benefits that do help your bottom line, do help your business thrive, even when you're faced with cost constraints as a small business. Yeah, so that's one. The other one that we see all the time is I don't have anybody on staff that is knowledgeable enough to implement these projects. We are all doing our jobs. We don't necessarily have the knowledge and in-house capacity to do this work. That's a big one. Especially for small business where they're all, everybody's wearing multiple hats. So there's a few ways to handle that challenge. One is you can invest in your staff and in employee training. And I don't mean investing in dollars. There's lots of low and no cost options out there for organizations to build the capacity of their staff to take on sustainable projects. As I said, Partners in Project Green, we have our Green Biz Resource Hub that allows people to learn how to do this on their own, take those initial steps, get going, all of that. But also you can really lean into some of those government programs that are available for you, right? I mentioned the Mississauga Climate Leaders. I mentioned Green Biz Caledon Climate Partnership. There are others that people can take advantage of. Your local economic development office is often a great source of knowledge. So really tapping into those places to go, okay, I might not have the in-house capacity, but people out there want to help me with this. So where do I go? And how do I get tapped into that?
Right. And thank you so much for sharing those resources that are out there for them to take full advantage of. Now, let's talk about trends, Jennifer. Where is this going, really, right? Looking ahead, what trends or shifts do you anticipate in the realm of sustainability for small businesses, and how can they prepare to adapt to these changes?
Sure. So this also could be a podcast in and of itself, a conversation in and of itself. There is. So I think I'll try to stick to kind of maybe the top four that we're seeing. One is certainly in the environmental, social, and governance space. So people would have heard of CSR in the past. That's really moved towards ESG, which is looking at your environmental, social, and governance metrics. Now, having those metrics on hand is becoming much more important to businesses, small businesses as well, because supply chains are asking for them, suppliers are asking for them. So getting yourself in a place where you can make sure that you have those numbers ready to go, that you have those tracking systems ready to go, can help you do it. It also is just a really good way to look at your business activities in general. So it's a great lens, a great framework to look at your business through in order to achieve, your overarching business goals. So definitely the metrics, the ESG metrics. And that also ties into some of the regulatory changes that we're starting to see. So we're seeing certainly these on the global scale, but we're also seeing them more locally as well. Just pressures from governments to report and to manage your environmental outputs and your environmental impact. So that's coming down the pipe in a lot more significant ways. And I think that will continue to happen as governments understand that we are we are in a climate crisis and we need to be doing this work now. So policies are going to come in place. And in order to kind of thrive in the coming years, it makes good business sense to stay abreast of those regulatory changes, join industry associations, stay on top of those changes that are coming, and make sure that you're transitioning before you're getting that knock on the door saying you need to be doing this, right? So that's a really big one. I think that I kind of touched on it before, but supply chain is really becoming a big topic of conversation, certainly because of climate change disruptions, but also because of geopolitical challenges. I mentioned Handy Foods before. They really had to look at where their wheat was coming from, with the war in Ukraine and everything like that. They were like, oh, well, it's starting to impact my business tangibly, materially, so they had to really start to look at where can I locally source sustainable wheat, right? And get that going. But it's happening in a lot of different areas as well. And it also ties back into that reporting structure because a lot more larger organizations are starting to ask of their supply chains, what are you doing for the environment? Show me what your environmental impact is and how you're being more environmentally responsible, because we're going to start picking the suppliers that are. Right. So that's becoming a pressure from, upstream, who you supply to, but also, you need to be looking down your supply chain and going, well, what's my supply chain doing? How are they being more environmentally sustainable? Are they going to be protected against the climate change risks that they're facing? Because that will impact your business. If you can't get what you need to make your product, you're in a hard place. So that's a really big one. And the final one I'd like to point to, a really important one, is the social impact of this. So I talked about ESG, E, the environmental, but S, the social, is really important. And we're finding more and more businesses are really wanting to see their environmental efforts also have a positive social impact. And this can be anything from looking at your employees and making sure that you've got pay transparency in place, that you're paying livable wages, looking at your diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice platforms, making sure those are solid and real and true and having a deep impact. Those things are so important, not just because it looks good when you want to go talk about it, but because we know that diversity breeds business success. The studies show it overwhelmingly. When you have diverse thought, when your employees are paid fairly and you have a strong corporate culture, your productivity is higher, your innovation is higher, all of those things. So that's a really big trend. So yes, I think that those are probably the four main ones. I think there's plenty more that we could get into: circular economy, other things, but those are the big ones.
I think those have the most significant impact on what is happening. I mean, with such vast competition, I think taking care of all these aspects could really help small businesses to really beat that competition and just stay ahead of the time, right?
Exactly. It's not just about doing well now, it's about thriving in the future. In the coming future, which is tough. Which is going to be tough, yes. Very.
And now, Jennifer, you've been very instrumental in public-private relationships, right? Partnerships, I would say. As we wrap up this conversation today, which has been great, absolutely great, what advice would you offer to small business owners who are looking to engage in these kind of collaborations for environmental and community initiatives?
Sure. And yes, you are so right. We need all of the voices at the table. We need government at the table. We need nonprofit. We need industry, and we need small business at the table, having these conversations, working together. At Partners in Project Green, we always say we can do more together than we can apart.
Right.
So I would say to any small enterprise looking to get involved, there are right now lots of organizations in your community that are doing work like this. Partners in Project Green is certainly one of them, but there's other nonprofits working in this space. Your economic development offices are in this space as well. You reach out to the people that are already doing the work, because they will be able to say, hey, look, this is what we've been doing. This is where we've been working. Let's talk about what's material to your business and how we can work together to drive greater impact. So I'm always here to talk to businesses. I love when businesses reach out and chat, and so does the rest of the Partners in Project Green team. So I strongly encourage you to contact me at partnersinprojectgreen.com. We'll love to have a conversation.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing your insights on sustainable practices that can help small businesses lead to a very sustainable future. It can help them realize where are they slacking and where can they do better. And with all these resources that you mentioned today, I think it can definitely help them reach that goal. So thank you for your time.
Oh, and thank you again so much for having me.
As we conclude this enlightening conversation, I'd like to express my gratitude to Jennifer Taves for sharing her expertise and insights on sustainable practices and the profound impact they have on our communities. It's clear that small businesses not only enrich our local economies, but also have the power to lead in the transition towards a more sustainable future. A special thanks to our partners who make this podcast possible. We appreciate the support from our exclusive banking partner, RBC, our exclusive shipping partner, UPS, and our exclusive accounting software partner, Xero. Together, we are dedicated to providing the tools and insights our small business community needs to thrive. For all of you joining us, if you're eager to stay updated with more discussions like this, remember to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine. Your subscription is a gateway to a wealth of knowledge and guidance catered to the unique needs and aspirations of small businesses. For all of you joining us, if you're eager to stay updated with more discussions like this, remember to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine. Your subscription is a gateway to a wealth of knowledge and guidance catered to the unique needs and aspirations of small businesses. Visit us at CanadianSME.ca/subscription and join a community of entrepreneurs who are making a difference. Until next time, this is Maheen. Keep innovating, keep growing, and keep supporting local businesses.